yell, Paul.
Okay, let's go into executive session. Oh, I apologize. Can I have a vote to go into executive session? All in favor?
That's it.
Okay, let's go into executive session. Kowalski will be presenting next year's budget.
Thank you. So we're about 4 weeks past the last presentation that was done. We were hoping we'd have a lot more information or new information today to share with you. Unfortunately, New York State's in their third extension of budget negotiations. They have now extended until tomorrow to finalize budget, so we don't really have any news. So the presentation is going to be very similar to the last one. I think that's about it, really. So three.
Oh, how many do they, as many as they want? They've gone, I want to say into June before. You know, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time since that happened, yeah.
But in past years, it was almost a thing where people would have gentlemen bets on when the budget would be adopted, what month and what day, and almost nobody picked April or May. They would pick June. Hopefully this year we'll stay closer to the May. A bunch of years ago when different governors got in there, they really started being closer to April. They even had on-time budgets, which when they were happening, people said this is unheard of. And now they're come to expect them with your question. And what is in this presentation that John says where it's about the same, really the difference is there are some breakdowns. We did have some people in the public other years ask for some breakdowns by section, and this is the board meeting where we do that for the public.
Yep.
Because he will be presenting a balanced budget with the contingencies that he'll explain to the board if there is an adoption or there's a change in foundation aid and so on.
Okay. And at this point, we're about 6 weeks away only from the vote, and there's probably a lot of stress on myself and Nora and Doug because, there's a lot of timeline things that we have to meet to get the budget done and ready for the voters to vote on it. There's newsletters that have to be put out, we have to publish things, and, there's lots of things to do, and we don't have all the information at this point, so it's been very tough for us to deal with that. So our mission consideration, the budget, same considerations. There's the agenda for tonight. As we say often, state aid, tax cap do not support higher costs driven by inflation. There's new information today about inflation is not going down. It's still proceeding upward. So we're not seeing those costs are not going to level out. They're only probably going to get worse into next year. So preparing for that when we're really restricted in the tax cap and the state aid. The budget that I am presenting is compliant with a 3.25 tax levy increase, which is what we are allowed by tax cap legislation. When we put our information into the formula, that's what we're allowed with a simple majority vote, 3.25%. We did share some other plans last time in case the state aid went different ways. We think we know which way, we're pretty sure which way it's going to go. We have a little more information, but the final numbers are not available yet.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing from John's past presentations. Usually I would do this in response to last month's public comments. We did get an email from an individual, the board did it, did receive it, yes, it was to the board did receive it, where they were asking, how could the district not see this coming? Why was the big shortfall? It's a big number. Why didn't you see it? How is it going to impact programs? And John's answering that and covered it, and that's really because the state did something that they've never done before and nobody saw it coming. All advisors, and what I'm pleased why I point that out while we were there is John has contingencies to take care of it. Mm-hmm. That was presented last time. The person was happy with our answers back to him, but I want everyone in the public to realize that it was something that was unprecedented, done by the governor, but thankfully Iroquois does have a way through it. Other districts are having other difficulties with it, as you see in the news. But not saying we won't get there eventually, but right now we'll be okay for next year.
And prior to January, when the executive budget came out, going backwards on foundation aid was not something we could even have in our mind of a thought. So that was very surprising to many districts. Half the districts across New York State saw reductions, and everybody was equally shocked that it would go that way. So the tax cap calculation, It's around 3% because of two factors. One is the tax-based growth factor, which is nearly 1%. That's a number that New York State gives to us based on development in our area. And then the allowable growth factor based on CPI, even though CPI is much higher, that's 4.12, that is the cap they talk about. It can only be 2% for that part of the calculation. So those two together is around 3%. That's why we're a little higher than some of the history we show here. We've hovered around 2.75 probably on average. So just a bit higher this time around. Again, because of that growth factor is a little higher than usual.
And that right, if you stay on that slide for a second for the public, that's where John will talk about it later, the difference between inflation, the consumer price index at over 4, and what we're allowed to be at is we cannot keep up with inflation. And that is impacting so many schools across the state, is because year after year you can't keep up with inflation. You can't have ends meet. You have to do something, change something just to make that happen.
John, I just have a quick question. Do we know how much percentage-wise the entire New York State budget has grown on an annual basis over the last few years?
I do not have the history of that, but there's always growth.
And I would venture to say it's much higher than 2% that we're capped at?
Oh,
Of course,
yeah, guaranteed that they've grown.
So
greater than
obviously the
2%.
state thinks there's a lot of things out there that they're paying for that are much more important than our kids' education.
Yeah, and I would even go further to say the money they do put towards education over the trend over the last years is they earmark it towards specific things and don't let it flow equitably to all districts.
Right.
And to be able to go for what I would call a sound basic education. They say, oh, here's a pet thing I like. I'm going to keep putting money towards it. Now, that pet thing is a good thing, but because the other money's not coming for general education, what is the price of that other good thing? What other good things are you losing? And that's the problem, that whatever percent they put towards it does not come into Iroquois.
Well, exactly, and that's my point. I mean, the 2% cap was placed in there to protect our local taxpayers. Now, for whatever reason they used for that, whether they felt that, school boards, could not manage conservative financial budgets as far as education goes, no matter what the reason, they chose to put a limit on what we could tax our taxpayers. At the same time, they have been reducing the tax dollars coming back to Iroquois Central School District.
Yep.
My question is, where and how could that difference be made up unless we go backwards?
And that's it exactly, and that's where what the governor did this year by not having hold harmless, where you get the same money you had the year before. Not that you go up, you just don't go backwards. And I think half of her logic was sound. Well, if you have less students, you don't need as much money.
Absolutely.
Very sound, and I agree with that part of it. The part I don't agree with is the cost to educate the student that's here costs more than the student that was here last year or was here 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
So you have to balance those two factors, and I don't think they're being balanced at all. It was just we're taking money away because you have less students. Nothing taken into account of inflation for anything else.
And again, I'm just trying, what the logic is behind it. If, we continually hear, our politicians, they're supportive of education. But again, actions speak louder than words. Every action that they have taken, almost every year I was on the board, is counter to that premise.
Yeah.
And just two things or three things to answer your question. Is looking at the governor's budget is a 4.5% increase, and I know that you said, Doug, that the less students, but every year New York State has less people. and they're increasing, their budget, so maybe her logic is not true. The question.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, and again, supposedly that's, consumer price index, and even though we're capped, that should take care of that. It's always going to cost more. But what they miss is school districts like Iroquois and many other school districts throughout the state. We pay attention to that. We right size. We don't continue to have, to be overstaffed. We want to make sure we have adequate staff to give our children a quality education, but we're certainly not going to continue to keep additional staff, whether it be, teachers or any one of our staff members. As our student population declines, we try to decline along with that.
New York is not. The one question
And we've done that. I mean, if you remember.
Exactly.
But last year, we did that, and over the past years, we've done it. Go ahead.
The one question I have, John, and I do totally understand that you do not have a crystal ball, and so you can throw something at Doug if you want to. What point do you think that we are realistically looking at having to break the cap? If you look at projections the way they are now.
I don't want to even think that we have to do that soon, but the issue, it's so hard to even guess because the governor is part of this recent couple days ago saying that she wants to address the whole way foundation aid formula is done, and there's going to be changes to it. Anytime you say changes, I worry that how is that going to impact us compared to everybody else in New York State?
I mean,
it's even harder than before to guess.
If there's no changes, assuming there's no changes, and everything stays at the growth rate, is it something that we're looking at next year, 2 years, 7 years?
I'll answer it. I'll step out on them. I would think it's definitely going to be within the next 5 years. And what's going to come into play, and it sounds like from the legislator and comments the governor has made, is they're going to restore hold harmless, so we'd have at least the same money as last year. To what extent will they do that? Because they say, well, we might change inflationary rate. I don't know how you can change inflationary rate. It is what it is, but they're going to tweak it. And so what are they going to do this year? And she says, well, what we did wrong this year is we didn't tell people soon enough we were going to do something, which to me says we're going to do something next year. So if we can get the money back for hold harmless this year, not use reserves, that's 1 year. We have the reserves then for the year after, that's a second year. And, but if they keep going down this path, it's going to happen because we'll have a slide up here where you can see we're not keeping up with inflation.
That was my point, not to put John Doug in the spot, is that, and Chuck made it, the board, the administrators act as responsible and conservative as we can, but New York State is also driving something, that could result in this, and New York State's also very good at blaming the school district when it's
under the current scenario, the only way for school districts throughout New York State from crash landing is to go above the percentage rate at 60%. And historically, based on what I remember, I think there were 2 last year that did pass, but historically, going above the 50% threshold has not gone well for school districts.
The only thing that could change is that what are you going from and what are you going to exceed it to? If we're talking 3.25 and you want to go to 6.5, that's a lot to swallow. That's not going to go well. If our growth factor, that CPI thing, if we're going to go down, CPI is going to be below 2 at some point, I think in the next 2 years or so, let's say. If that's 1.2, and we have a smaller growth factor, and now our tax cap calculation is 1.5, and we want to go to 2.5, that's not bad probably to achieve, and probably a little easier to swallow.
And well, it's going to come up to a point, John, where we're not going to have a choice but to do something like that, because there is no school district that is sustainable based on what they've given us over the past, 7 years?
And that tax cap calculation, that could be, think when that was developed, that was 10, 12 years ago when CPI, you didn't fathom it being over 2%. It was always under 2. Everything was fine. Nothing was changing very much, but we never imagined you would see 8% like we did a year ago or 2, and now 4, and it's consistently there, and it's not going away.
No, and like I said, I mean, it seems to me the only entities that are suffering from that are school districts because we are the only budget that the public has the opportunity to approve themselves. So nobody else needs to follow it. The state can continue to be as hypocritical as ever, and, we'll, sweat bullets and worry about our kids' education every single year.
Well said.
So there's our calculation in full, if you want to see the details of where the numbers come from. Again, 3.25%, simple majority vote. Estimated tax impact, this is we have those notes at the bottom saying this is very estimated because there's 6 different townships and they're going to all change their equalization rates next year, and they're all going to do it different ways. And what we're going to probably see is 1 or 2 of those townships are going to see higher than 3%, possibly. We've seen that before. And a couple, 2 or 3, are going to see almost no increase in their tax rate. That's just what happens. Usually I get a call from someone saying, my bill went up by 5% or 5.5%. And I'll look back, in the previous year, their bill didn't change at all. They had no increase. So on average, everybody pretty much gets the same hit, just certain years because of the equalization rates that we do not control. Different townships, it passes around and somebody gets a little higher than 3% or whatever our allowable increase is.
Yeah. That's right. I like to say on this, pay attention to the word estimated, because it will change, and the numbers are wrong there, because one of those towns or more of them, the equalization rate will change, and that changes it for everybody.
Yep.
And we do not get those numbers from the state until end of July.
Yeah.
And I have gone to the state and expressed how this could be prevented, because instead of using the new ones, use the previous, and then you know exactly where they are, and I could give everyone actual numbers, and they say, well, that's a neat idea.
And here's the equalized rate, kind of if you take it and put everything at full value. We've seen that number going down. Obviously, I've explained before, because the overall values are going up so much. Our levy, which is not going up that much, it's capped. Tax values are going much faster, property values. So there's more property value to spread our tax levy across, and you see that equalized rate going down actually over time. So that's the state we're in right now. So the New York State budget was not completed by 4/1. We all know that. A third extension was approved. So the budget is now due tomorrow, 4/11. So we have not been able to really make changes. We have nothing to go by except the executive budget that was done in January. So we're staying with those numbers right now because that's all we have. We know in this budget we have the impact of our 2020 capital project. As planned, we have debt service payments that are going to begin. As planned, we have state aid that will match those debt service payments. So even though the budget's going to go up to kind of make those payments, we have state aid coming in to kind of match that, because we did tell the public it was going to be no local impact, and that's what's happening. Universal Pre-K, looking to fund 4 UPK classes next year. Based on enrollment, I think we're still at 4 as of today, or has that thing changed?
So where we are with UPK numbers is we had enough people apply to just crest the 5 classroom. And always what happens when you call people and explain there's not a wraparound service, some of them drop off. So we're going through that process now to see exactly what number we end up with. We do have a grant out, and John is going to be reviewing it because of the number to see if we can afford 5 classes, but a lot of that will depend on how many students are actually going to be in it, because the grant for this, we only get so much money per student, and if there's going to be 15 students in it rather than 18, that's a different cost the district would have to take on. So before we do anything, we're contacting the parents and going through to make sure everyone that signed up wants to stay in there, so we have an actual number moving towards the 5th class.
Again, we're just talking about this, but we're just showing a chart showing how a CPI is moving much faster than our foundation aid increases and our tax levy increases. So same story there. So our revenues at this point, the difference from the last presentation is I have use of reserves now going up by 700,000, and that's roughly to cover that state aid shortfall right now. So I am very hopeful and confident in the next few days we'll hear that the state aid is going to be restored, and we will not have to access the reserves to kind of fund the budget. But that's the plan as of right now. How I'm presenting it is including that.
And the reserves were being used for the ascot change, correct? Or no? Or
So it can, in some cases, if there's construction work and there's other things that, like, repair reserves could be accessed for different things. But as far as like uniforms and things like that, no, you can't use reserves for that specifically.
where is that money coming
From general fund allocations.
Yeah, it just means at the end of this year and the end of next year, because we're going to do it over 2 years, there won't be as much money going into the reserves as we typically like.
And we're hoping to have a lot of those uniform purchases made in this year now, knowing where we are with our financials this year and using money we have right now and not having to put it in next year. So we're trying to absorb as much as we can right now.
We did have a very light winter, so,
Yeah.
it did save on overtime
There were
and
some
salts
things.
and other things like that.
So these are the things we're retaining. No plan changes in these areas. Just in our general, our instructional programs, no significant changes. We plan to go with what we have this year into next year. Expenses, no changes here from the last presentation. A slight increase in teacher retirement system payments that we have to make, and a larger increase on the ERS system, but ERS payments are not as much as TRS, so we will be fine with that. You'll see that in the details coming up as well. And health insurance, around 3%, but that may not even be 3% because we're making some significant inquiries, and we did a request for quote process on our pharmacy, and we see very favorable results. At least they're being told that we're getting favorable results. We won't know until next year when we're really into this, but we're very hopeful that we're going to see some definite positive impact to the district by making this change. Capital outlay project, we always include the $100,000 project. There is actually discussion at the budget, the state level of when this new budget comes out that they may increase this to 200 or 250, which would be great because 100,000 doesn't get you nearly what it got 10 years ago. But we plan to do some STEM room renovations at the high school and then repointing brick as much as we can with the money with that $100,000 completed in the summer of 2025.
So I guess staying at that one real quick, asking the board, depending on when the state approves its budget, it'd be nice to change it, if they changed it this year, to change it this year so we could get the work done and get approval to do it. On the same token, I don't want to change something at the last second and confuse the voters once the newsletters go out, but if we can make the change before information goes out, would the board be okay as increasing it if the state has theirs on time? Increasing to whatever the state increases from 100,000 if they go up to 250. And what we would do is we would do a shifting, or do you want to wait a year after that?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, we're under no obligation to expend that.
Correct, you do not have to expend it.
But it certainly would give us far more flexibility as far as, getting some meaningful, projects done around here.
And that's really what it was.
Without having to go through the entire process.
Yep.
And these little projects are great because they kind of absorb some of that planned work we have so that when we do our next big project years down the road, that's less stuff we have to worry about and we can focus on other bigger, better things. So the expense side, again, matching with the revenue side at this point, 3.44, a little higher than usual because of those debt service payments that we now are incurring with the capital project. So the budget increases a little more than, but you see that the line that's being impacted through that debt service line is going up by 22%. So that's a big driver in the expense side. The detail here is looking at, so you have these different, you have five different categories here. Transportation is really one item, so I don't break that one down very far. But we're going to go into the general instructional benefits and interfund transfers. So in the general support, most of these you can see that the bars are not showing much change from year to year. In fact, the finance one, business office, we are reducing staff by half of a person for the coming year, with some efficiencies that we realized there with some different things we're doing, and some retirements that occurred.
Yeah, Barb retiring.
So that one's actually going down. And central service, even though the bar looks big, if you look, it's 1.8% increase. It's not substantial, and that is a very large area. That's all our maintenance, custodial, cleaning staff, a pretty minimal increase there.
Is that increase in just like overtime or more people?
No, that's
or-
just like moving people from this year into next year with their normal salary increases and
Contractual. like
contractual
in the contract.
increases, yeah. When you break down the instructional side, you've got the first one on the left is instructional development and supervision. That's a little higher with 7.5, but we knew that was coming with the II building. We have a staff for the II building that we have to implement, so that did drive that up a little higher than usual, but we knew that was coming. Regular instruction, that's the biggest budget number we have, and that's getting about 3.41%. Students with disabilities, we've seen that grow a lot in the past years, but luckily this year we're seeing some reason to kind of keep it flat because we have had so many prior increases in those areas. Occupational education, that's really mostly the BOCES bill that we pay for students, and $20,000 is probably a difference of one student going to occupational education program. And then the other ones look fairly flat, including pupil services, which is it shows a 6.5, but again, we knew we're going to add a guidance position for the II building, so that's kind of, we knew that was coming as well, that was going to get a little higher than usual increase on pupil services. And then undistributed, we call it, which is all the employee benefits and debt service. Again, we're seeing pretty flat. You see the first one is really having the biggest increase of 13.9%, but that's the state retirement system. We've seen that number even higher in the past. Teacher retirement is very flat at around about a 1% increase we see from this year to next year. All the other benefits fairly flat, and as we said, debt service is going to increase because we knew it was going to increase with the capital project. So no surprises there as well. So at the end of the day, we have the expenses matching revenues. Proposition 1 will be for the general fund budget. 2 will be for vehicle replacement, no changes from the last presentation. 3 full-size buses. They'll probably be diesel buses unless we get some kind of whirlwind of money that would support buying electric, but we'll let you know if we do. But we plan on buying diesel buses. We have applications in for the smaller buses, 30-passenger cutaway and a wheelchair lift-equipped bus to possibly get funding. If we do get enough funding where we can get those at cheaper than those diesel prices, we will buy electric on those too if we get enough subsidies and assistance from the state to make those cheaper. We will try that. It might be a good opportunity to kind of step into that and give those a try without really making many significant changes because we don't have to change the electrical system at the bus garage very much to handle 2 buses being charged. And then we do have 1 board seat open, and we are still accepting petitions until April 22nd at 5 p.m. And we are closing in quickly on May, and May 14th will be the budget hearing, which we're required to do within 10 days of the budget vote. Is it 10 or 7? I forget. But it's a scheduled hearing that we have to do, and then the budget vote on May 21st from 7:30 in the morning till 9 p.m. And wow, we're right on time, 6:59. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, we'll have them go down the hall. We have a few people in the hall coming in, so we'll just let them walk in, and then we'll start right away. Yeah, right, 7.
hear you nice and loud. Okay, so you're gonna lead us in the pledge. We start when you guys start, okay? And then when you're all done, you're gonna be invited up to the flag to take a picture with Mr. Schofield, okay? All right. Mr. Michaelak will let you know when he's ready for you guys to do it, okay?
Okay. I originally thought it was gonna be in the room where we're rehearsing for what's it called? The band and orchestra. Oh yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sorry?
We're about to start, everyone. Welcome to all who have come to observe the meeting of the Iroquois Central School Board District Board of Education. There are two periods of recognition of guests listed on the meeting agenda. The first is for comments regarding agenda items. The second is for topics not on the agenda. Speakers may offer comments related to school operations and programs, but the board cannot hear personal complaints against any individual associated with the school system. Please address these concerns to the appropriate administrator. If you wish to be recognized, please fill out the appropriate form and turn it into the district clerk, as per policy number 1514. Public participation at board meetings, public comment by district residents is limited to 15 minutes total, unless the board suspends this limit. Each person is given up to 3 minutes in which to address the board. Additionally, no more than 3 people may speak on a single topic unless the board also waives this limitation. This is a meeting held in public rather than a public meeting, which means we will not engage in dialogue with the members of the community this evening. District personnel will follow up with you regarding your concerns. Rest assured, we are listening carefully and taking seriously what you have to say. Please demonstrate respect by speaking to the issues, sharing ideas and opinions, but not engaging in personal attacks. The board appreciates your willingness to share your concerns and celebrations. Please be advised this meeting is being streamed live and recording will be posted at the Iroquois website. I would like to welcome Connor and Tallulah from Elma Primary, who will be leading us with the pledge this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. That's funny. That would be me.
This evening, our student report is from the high school. There are several students here from Lead who will talk about their successful children's book drive. Welcome to Megan, Ava, Kara, Shauna, Aaron, and Parker.
I would like to first of all just thank the Board of Education for having us have the opportunity to speak to you today, and thank you for your unwavering support of the high school and for your unwavering support of our clubs and organizations. I just wanted to also introduced today our lead group today. This club is been doing just an absolutely terrific job. That's why I wanted them to have an opportunity to present to you today, because they did an absolutely terrific job with a book drive where they're able to benefit children in our local community. And I wanted them to give an opportunity to present what they did in this year with this particular book drive, because it was just such a wonderful and impactful event that will have a lasting impact on children within the local Buffalo community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you students from our lead club.
Thank you, Dr. Janestri. So we are from the club LEAD in the high school, and LEAD stands for Leadership, Education, and Activities Development. And so we, in March, had our LEAD Reads book drive, which was an event where local community members in the Alma, Marilla, and Wales area donated books, children's books, and we took those children's books to Union East Elementary in Cheektowaga, where we held a free book fair for all the students there, where they got to choose their own book and take it home and call it their own. And so the idea first came when our advisor, Ms. Canty, was talking to a teacher at Union East Elementary. Her name is Mrs. Tonsline. And Mrs. Tonsline is a second grade teacher, and she spoke about her class and how in recent years the demographics in Cheektowaga have changed, where now they have a large population of ELL students, which is English language learner students, where their first language is not English. And so when it comes to learning English, one of the largest things, it's very helpful to have books on hand and to be able to read and to be able to immerse yourself in that language. And one of the things that Ms. Tonson would talk about with her students is some of these students came from countries where they had very, very little in their past lives. And so anything they get here, they're just very, very appreciative of. And so we wanted to give them the opportunity and give each of these kids a book, one that they can call their own, because a lot of these students probably, or we know, didn't have that. And so Ms. Canty reached out to Mrs. Janestri, who is a reading teacher at Union East Elementary, and from there we started to plan this event.
Okay, so we did for actually collecting the books. That was kind of, I ran with that, and then everybody helped me do that. And so we reached out and we had made posters in the building, and we even worked at the middle school with the kids who work with Miss Whalen, and they were running the collection down here in the front foyer in the middle school, and we would come back and forth and collect those books. And then we were even able to have the advertisement put up on the school webpage, so everyone was seeing it, which we actually collected, I think it came to over 2,500 books. So we had a ton of books, and they're small because they're children's books, so we lost count. We had so many more books than we thought we had. So we were able to give away, kids were able to take home over 3 books each. And so they were just, it's on a timer, I think. And so they were just super overjoyed, and we had collected and sorted by age groups. So we had a pre-K, K section, we had second and third grade, or first and second grade, and then third and fourth grade. And so they were able to work for their reading level, whether it was the reading level that was for their grade or for their level of English knowledge. So they were really able to match, and the teachers were able to direct the kids.
So when we got to the school, we were put in a room where we put some of the books, we spread them all out on tables according to grade and age level. And then we still had a lot of books in boxes underneath the table just because there was a ton of books. And then classes came in by grade level, where they were able to take around 2 books, and then towards the end, when we realized we still had a lot of books left, we were just letting them take as many as they wanted, because they were interested in like a lot of different topics, and it was just nice to see them get excited.
And as well as them collecting books inside the room I was a part with my other advisor, Claire, out there. We had some prizes we gave away to the kids outside. We had little games, and we had some bags and t-shirts, pencils, little bookmarks we gave as well as for them to color, just for them enjoying books. And a lot of teachers came back, and they wanted to say how appreciative the kids were. They were very overjoyed that they have this opportunity to get these books and to go home to their families and always read them and learn more English as they were getting into that stage of their childhood career. And as well, a lot of kids, they look forward to looking into new books, new ideas, and like they were saying, we took multiple books, like 3, 4, 5, and they were always running around the hallways, and they were like, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm so excited, I'm going to see this when I get home, and they're very appreciative of what we can do for them. And overall, I would say that this is probably one of the biggest things we do all year, with all the support we have from all our community members and all the members in our school as well. So when we were handing out the books that day, many of the kids didn't even understand the fact that they were free and that they were just there for them to pick out and take. And when they realized that they were just there to take, they were just overjoyed. And many of the kids were picking books out for their younger siblings as well, like little baby books. And they were just so thrilled to have that opportunity. And one little girl, to the language part, she had picked up this book and she was like, I have this book at home in Arabic. And I was like, well, take it. I was like, take that one. And so they were just so grateful and overjoyed that they had the opportunity. And they sent us tons and tons of cards, handmade cards, and they're in the display case in the high school upstairs. We hung them all up. But they're all in the cards. They're like, oh, you guys are our heroes. So cute, so sweet. They were just so thankful. And the teachers even told us, kids who hated reading, didn't ever want to read, all they did when they got back to the classroom was beg to read their books. So that was all the work that went into it was well worth it, that they were so excited about it. So. Anybody else?
They did an amazing job. From downstairs, the elevator was broken, loading the bus, to carrying your pictures here.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
They really did. And when the elevator went out, I went to some of the homerooms. Other kids came and helped carry boxes of books down. And what was, to look at the room, it was just this beautiful array of all these colorful stacks of books. And it was joyful. It was really joyful to see the kids' reactions. And the teachers were so appreciative. Superintendent Scott Zipp contacted us afterward and was really, really appreciative of the efforts. And it's a testament to the community, I think, as well. People were incredibly generous. I mean, Linda Whalen would be calling and saying, we have more boxes. You can come and get them. People are leaving them in the hallways. And we had so many books. We have at least 500-600 left over. I'm in contact with a couple of Buffalo City schools to see if they would take a donation, because we ended up with far more than we can imagine. It was great. Thank you.
And it's really cool to see. Not only was it an amazing, undertaking, but, the joy that you guys got from doing it. And that's a really cool in life when you learn when you help other people and you have a positive impact on them. It's great for them and how good it makes you feel. So you guys should be commended. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I can't say enough about how well they represent our community too, because that's my wife's school district that they went into. So I know all the teachers in the school district, and they couldn't say enough about how wonderful their students were and how well they were received by them. So the positive comments that came from the teachers of from the teachers of the Tukwila Central School District in regards to our students and how they interacted with the students and how they represented our
Okay, we're gonna move on to item number 7, board discussion and news worth sharing. Does anyone have news to report from their schools for the ambassador report?
Jane is unable to be here tonight, but she asked me to tell everyone she was able to attend the high school musical. Express what a phenomenal event it was for her to be at, for the performance. Congratulations to the actors, the stage crew, the pit performers. It was exceptional, and she thoroughly enjoyed it.
Does anyone else have anything they would like to share?
I went to the 22nd annual musical, first grade musical at Alma Primary. It was amazing. And just like that speech they just did, I felt like I needed a box of Kleenexes because I was just getting teary-eyed watching these little kids perform so well, so that was amazing. And that PTO meeting is Wednesday, April 17th, which I'll be attending. And the ITAC meeting is next week as well. And I was wondering, because I noticed that there's a PTO meeting for the intermediate building on the 22nd of April. Do we think somebody from the board should attend that, or?
I think they'd be more than welcome to attend if someone wanted to attend. We don't have an ambassador, we don't have, the II hasn't really started yet, so we don't have an ambassador, so if someone's looking. Yeah, just whoever's going, and if more than one go, that's fine too. Email me, and I'll get the word to Ryan, or better yet, CC me and email Ryan directly.
What time is that meeting?
6 o'clock on Monday.
Okay, just moving on.
Just a second. Maybe switch with John there. Get that number down, Paul, so we can look at it.
Is that
later.
better? Okay.
Moving on to ECASB update. Has anyone attended any workshops or meetings sponsored by the Erie County Association of School Boards they'd like to share?
Yeah, I think with the holiday, they didn't have too many.
No, the only thing that I would have from the legislative committee is on May 11th at 9 a.m. There's a legislative breakfast that they have. And then, Heather, did you attend the Capitol Conference?
Yeah, but we covered that last meeting, I think. The speedboarding event, the road rally is coming up on Saturday, April 27th. I know Jane would be appreciative that I brought that up because she's running the event. I don't know if they have a sign-up sheet yet, Nora, or not, but, and then there's that legislative meeting. Who's on the legislative?
Oh, yes, it's, May 11th is the breakfast.
Oh, okay, I think it's on the April 18th is a legislative.
April 18th is our meeting that we have,
Meeting,
yeah.
yeah. And then the speedboarding event's tomorrow, but I don't know if anyone's going to that. Yeah.
There also is the annual dinner. I think it's June 6th for ECASB. So let Nora know if you will be attending.
Okay, for the district planning update that Chuck, Heather were working on, do you guys have any updates or information to share?
Yeah, we met just before everyone kind of scattered to go to spring break, so apologies I didn't get the items written down as I had promised, but I think we could discuss what we covered here. I do have a couple of things. So one of the things is it's really a packed 2 days, and Nora did mention to us that there are mandatory sessions that need to be done at least once a year, including, I had it up in front of me, the annual counselor, student services, and the business office presentation. We didn't know if that's an option to maybe spread that out throughout the year. Like, does it have to be done during the conference, or it just has to be done once a year?
It should be done, I'll say somewhere between July and October.
Okay.
Because the reason for we do it twice a year for the business, that has to do with the reserves. So you know where the reserves are at the beginning of the year, and then you get the update at the budget time of where they are. The other one for the counselors could really be done anytime, but it'd be nice to have it done at a time where it's a cycle. I don't think doing it now during budget season would be a good fit for it, because John's speaking. So that's why I would think sometime earlier in the year would be better.
It's generally done at the end of the year. It's generally done at the end of the year so that it's a culmination of all the work that's been done and the plans going forward. That's
Okay.
why we've always placed it in the summer.
Okay, but maybe looking at, in our next work session.
September.
Yeah, you could, yeah.
Yeah, you could,
September.
yeah, if you'd rather not have it at a district planning conference, we could do it at a meeting in October or September would be fine.
Right, and then sorry, Chuck, were you gonna add to that last point?
No,
No,
it's
okay.
okay. Go ahead.
And then with the building goal presentations, a lot of it was repetitious with what they were presenting. I think a lot was on SEL.
Yeah.
And we thought it would be better to kind of maybe get those goals up front so we can spend the face-to-face time talking about what the board can do to support them to achieve those goals. Because it seemed like a lot of death by PowerPoint, a lot of reading from the slides. It was very consistent, maybe not a good use of face-to-face time. So that was something else that we did discuss. And also even asking the administrators, like, what did they want to get out of the conference on the things that we can do to support them in their goals, and have more discussions in regards to data. I don't think that we look at data enough and trends. Even, we keep saying about enrollment. Enrollment's going down, but have we ever looked at trends and the data that supports that and where we are from where we were 10 years ago? Data in regards to the needs of our students for mental health and student support. And I think in Chris Hershey, Chris number 2, he had a lot of data in his presentation, I remember from last year, and that was really good to have better conversations about what the administrators need from the board for us to support them throughout the year.
Yeah. We need to, and we can only get it through the data is, what are we doing well and, what do we might need a little more work on, so we have a better idea of, when we're, approving our budgets, exactly where those dollars are going.
And the data too from not only administrators, but from the output of our scanning panorama data from, Panorama, that's what it's called? Yeah, so looking at that data, looking at the data on how we're measuring on our state tests. So spending more time on what we can do to support them. Because the face-to-face time is really priceless. It's really the only one time a year that all of us are together in the same room. So it's a packed 2 days, and that's kind of why we're thinking maybe shifting some of the mandatory things around, and we can discuss that further.
Spread those over to some of the, a regular meeting.
Yeah.
Do a
And some of that stuff, it would be good for the public to actually,
Right, exactly.
hear as well. We agreed last year, we spent way too much time talking about electric buses. We don't want to do that again, because that was like,
I think that's one important thing that and I understand, the point, well, if we're interested in it, but given what the summer session, planning session is all about, I think we really need to stick to an agenda. And if it's something that we're really interested in and we have a lot of questions, well, those can wait until we reschedule with, whoever. It's not that we don't want to shut anybody off, but unfortunately or fortunately, I wasn't there last year. Yeah, that seemed to just throw everything else out of kilter. So as painful as it might be at times, it's much better, I think, from a board member standpoint, stick to the agenda, and if there's things that we need to explore, didn't have enough time to explore in more detail, I think that has to come in the future. Don't hijack, other times and then push everybody else off.
and in the corporate world, that's called like a parking lot, right? Things come up,
Yeah.
you write them down,
No,
you talk about them
easy.
later.
That's,
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of typically we say, would the board like to continue this? We will not ask that question. We will say it's
Right,
done. Would
exactly.
the board like to hear more of this
Right.
at a later meeting?
I mean, because I'm sure we would like to continue it, but
Yeah.
the problem is, in us doing
It does
that,
throw everything
we're
off, and I'm
pushing
texting
everything else back,
people, and
or, there's danger of never coming back to it,
Right.
so.
okay.
The
Yeah,
other
and
thing,
some of these things you've said already, we haven't done in a while, because there's, again, like this, there's a direction change. So going back to this is great. So good, keep going.
the other thing too is that at the end of the second day, we talk about board goals, right? And we are all absolutely exhausted from the 2 days, so maybe restructuring the timing of that and the duration, because I don't think that maybe we spend enough time on the board goals, and rightly so, because it's at the end of day 2, and it's like at 4 o'clock after we've been here for 2 days.
I would say my question would be, or my recommendation would be to move it out of the district planning conference,
Could do that.
because to make board goals, you should hear what administrators have to say.
Yeah.
So you can support them.
Exactly.
And then by having it at a different time, it's not like, oh, we're trying to get to it. It's, we have time to think and process and come up with them later.
For some reason, that always seemed to be a struggle with every planning conference, because that was always the last thing done.
And we also have the district goals in there, so would you want those at a different time for discussion? Because you could do it at the board meeting in October or August.
Yeah, because I would, because we would have we want to have some continuity, and we would have, the building goals, at that point in time.
And honestly,
You know,
the
and-
district goals shouldn't change
Unless we make a
tremendously
district goal.
any 1 year. Because we're following the strategic plan, you have the building goals. I mean, they should be tweaked and modified, but
That does
Right.
beg the question, though, with the strategic plan, like, is that the time to also review where we are in that 5-year plan?
we could
Possibly.
we could put that in there, that,
Because, I mean, when's the last time we've actually looked at it as a group together on where we are
It's
with
been a couple of
things?
years,
Yeah.
bits and pieces and put in there, and I've made no secret that I believe there should be some modifications to it because it's lacking in instruction for the plan. So I think that would be good. So we can put that in
Yep.
there.
That would be a good discussion. But again, I won't be there this year.
So it'll
Not
be
as a
better
visitor, come
discussion.
in, see?
Huh?
You're not going to visit us?
Maybe I'll come for lunch.
Was there anything else? I'm trying to think.
I was, just to piggyback on what Heather had said too, as far, his presentations, and we do appreciate all of the information that we get from our administrators during the planning conference. But personally, I was looking for something more than just PowerPoint presentations and a regurgitation to us of those PowerPoints. I was expecting something, or would like to see something more that generates, conversation and discussion, with the group. I mean, that information is great, and we could still, receive that information. I don't know that we have to do a PowerPoint, and do it that way. I'd rather have more quality time with our administrators, to talk about real issues, that they're facing, and also real wins that they've had, over the years. I mean, we always seem to forget about all the great accomplishments, that not only our students, but our teachers and administrators have done, throughout the year. And I'd like to hear more of that too.
I mean, it seems.
But again, I'm not going to be there next year, so it's okay.
No, but I mean, I think, and I don't want to steal words, but I think as a board, we're looking for a more collaborative, like team building, team bonding approach than just, like Chuck said, if it can be given to us in writing, do that, and let's use this valuable time for more of the personal touch, the team, the bonding, that time.
And I think opening up the time by removing some of this stuff and shifting other things will do it, because I think there's that pressure to get done, get the information out, and then it's like, okay, we got to get the next person in. So instead of saying, here's a group of them, we can block it out where I look at Pete, because he's at Elma and he's sitting here, Pete, you're gonna have half an hour or 45 minutes. That's it. But in that time, make sure there's collaborating.
Yeah, but I don't even think that's enough time.
Well, I'm not saying it is, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
looking at him
yeah.
and smiling.
but-
That's where honestly, I'm gonna have to work with administrators, because Pete, how much time would you like? And no, you don't get the 2 days. Because I'm assuming the board would like 2 days again, is that correct? 2 days, 1 day? I just need to know the timeline.
Well, I guess it depends on what we decide we're gonna
Yeah.
cover, right?
Yeah, do we need to get together again probably for,
I would think
to
so.
just wrap things up?
Pete, if I could put you on the spot.
I was just gonna say that, Doug, I was gonna ask him.
Because Pete knew it was coming too. He just happens
Yeah.
every time he's here. Ballpark, if you wanted to talk about, you heard what they were saying, focused on Elma, wins, successes, get that discussion going.
You know, real
About in there.
concerns, you know, problems.
About how long would you think it would take for Elma?
I guess what I would say is, if the information that we're providing to you is provided in advance, and it's really just a discussion about those things, I don't know, 45 minutes, half hour, but I also think
So we'll say an hour.
our approach has been, the elementary level, to kind of share our presentation together too, so that would be something we want to consider is, do we want all the elementaries together, or do we want to have individual conversations with each, because that definitely would impact the time and everything.
Yeah. And we can work through that on the administrative level, because that talks about, one thing we've been constantly doing is having the elementaries, even though 3 separate buildings, and have different needs, work collectively together. So that could be where they could have, part of it be collective work.
I was just gonna add
and other
part
of it be
separate, yeah.
individual work.
That's what I was thinking.
So there might be hour and a half for collective work, and then half an hour on individual work. So you're talking the
Does that
3
sound-
primaries right there would be 3 hours, so that would be the
Yeah.
morning they would have. And then middle school, high school would be the afternoon, and that would be 1 day.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're trying to get consistency through with the 3 buildings, but I see that more as a administrative processing thing, you know, that
Yeah.
everybody's on the same page with this, and we're all using, you know, the same whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, it's
But
gonna-
every single school has every building has their own challenges, you know, and their own successes, you know, so, I mean, they're all unique as much as
Yeah.
we want to try to make you all the same, which, again, you're never going to be the same, just procedurally, you know, if you will. But, yeah, I'd like to hear the uniqueness of our schools. And that's very important for our community. That was one of the reasons that a number of years ago, when we had that choice of, do we close a building? I mean, all 3 towns, the community said, no, we don't, you know, so there's a very, you know, strong presence there.
And one of the things I thought about after we had a delightful evening together was about even the exit surveys. Like, I know during the conference, we look at the exit survey, but I don't ever remember us having, not that there's actionable items, but really doing much with the feedback. So I know we reviewed it together, but to get awareness of
Yeah,
how
no,
Yeah, you know, and that depends from year to year, because we have had some years that we did take action based on the exit surveys, but, you know, it just depends
depends, yeah.
on the year and, you know,
Like
what
the
issues
SRO
we're
question,
facing.
we're adding SROs, that was something a
Right.
lot of
Yeah.
discussion
Yeah.
was around.
Yeah,
You know,
but maybe
things-
just
things
spending a
along
little bit of
those
time
lines,
together on that as a group.
So, I mean, just to circle back, so you guys are gonna meet again, right?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
then,
maybe just to wrap things up and make
and
sure
then
that
get a
everybody's on
report
the
at the
same
next,
page.
next board meeting, so then a little more firm direction for the administrators and Doug to go with.
We'll probably, you know, want to, you know, talk to Doug and maybe meet well before that,
Okay.
so that we can get our information together and offload that to Doug.
Okay.
Right. And then maybe even talk about, here are the things we're looking at, how much time you think,
Right.
like you give me a list, how much time do you think it would take, like, to talk about the exit survey? Offhand, I would say, if you're really going to talk about it, 2 hours.
Yeah. And also,
That's
Doug, I
7
mean, you're,
people, each talking for 10 minutes, that's 70 minutes.
but your guidance in this too, because there's, you know, I mean, there very well are, and we know there's always issues that we're not always aware about.
Right.
You know, whether it's coming from the state or locally or whatever, you know, that you would want to have.
Okay. Does that conclude your presentation? Okay, going on to the next item. We need to schedule a work session date for the board. And the general, we've been talking, the general purpose for this work session would be to just discuss, our proper roles and responsibilities and where our lane is. I think that everyone on the board has things that are important to them, and they want to be involved with it. But I don't think we've ever had a discussion as a board, what we think, not individually, collectively, and how we see ourselves working with the superintendent to that direction. And especially, Chuck will be, leaving. There's a lot of experience there. So I think it's kind of a meeting where we can come and reinvent ourselves, set our priorities, and how we want to communicate. We've got a lot of new members, different feelings, and thoughts. So I guess what we just want to do is, can we pick a date or time, or how do we want Nora to shoot out times in an email? Because I think it's really important that, and Keith and, Jane are not here, but I think we really want all the board members there. Yeah, that's what I think we would do, because I don't want to pick a day without Keith and Jane being here, because I think we really need to be there as a group and decide what we're doing, what we should be doing, and, firm that up.
How long would you like for that meeting? So when people are saying I'm free this date, they don't think, half an hour or 5 hours.
No, I mean, I think anything over an hour and a half is too long. I'd say an hour to hour and a half.
And are you thinking about doing this before the next board meeting? Or?
I think it would be a good idea, but I think that's largely going to be debate on, people's schedules and what's out there.
Okay.
I don't think it's a mandatory thing. Yeah.
So it'd be more important to have everyone there than
Yes.
to race it to get it done.
Right, that's what, yeah.
That's what I'm hearing.
Right, so I'm just.
As soon as possible, but make
Right,
sure
like
everyone's there.
hypothetically, if everyone's like, I got nothing to do next Wednesday, that'd be great, but if it can't be until June 6th, that's fine too. Okay, the next one, we have the special BOE meeting on April 16th. Originally Jane, Bob, Chuck, and Heather said they could be there. For the quorum, it's a 5-minute meeting. It's at 7:30 a.m. Jane can no longer attend. So can anyone else do that?
Well, I'll still be there.
I plan to attend.
So we would need,
Yeah, we need 4.
we need four.
four.
I know that one, I can't be there. I'm working.
And the time can move, so
Yes.
if you can meet that,
No.
it has to be that day, but it can be any time.
Yeah, I mean,
during
we
that
could make
day.
it later in the day if that works. I'll make myself available. I just can't do it in the middle of the afternoon.
Want to do it like 6?
April 16th, yeah, that date I could do it at 6 p.m.
When?
Same date, 6 p.m.
6 PM?
Yeah.
Sold.
Does that work for
Yeah,
Bob?
it works for me.
So that's,
Can everyone make it that day?
I
Heather,
can.
you said you
Yep.
could?
PM.
Whoops, I put BD for Bob.
And we're gonna go an hour, hour and a half, right?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5
Chuck.
minutes.
What?
It's 5-minute
The
meeting.
April 16th, it's just the BOCES budget.
Oh, and we're gonna do that at night.
Yeah, 6 for like 5 minutes, so Chuck can make it.
Nora will remind you.
Paula Donuts.
So we have our 4 people in, right?
Can you make it?
Yep.
It's fine
Okay.
for now, but,
Okay,
Jim, and Heather, you said you could make it, right?
yes.
okay, I guess, just statement, the annual budget vote is May 21st, not May 14th. There's a mistake on the district's paper calendar. The correct date is May 21st, not May 14th, as the calendar says. And now, it is, the date is May 21st, not May 14th.
May 14th, we have a board meeting though, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, how it works is 2 weeks into the month, you have a board meeting to do the final work for the budget. The third Tuesday is when the vote is, and that's why it's on May 21st. And it's the same for all school districts. All school districts are May 21st, budget vote.
I had a board meeting for May 7th. I have the 7th.
That has to move to the 4th.
Okay.
It's the 14th. Nora will get an update out on the May board meetings.
We're going to move to item number 8, which is the superintendent's report.
The response to last month public comments, we really didn't have anyone to speak. I did get 2 emails. One I spoke with already, and the other one is someone wrote in about Visit My Stop. I actually had it on my message yesterday. They said it wasn't working. There have been troubles with it all year. So a quick update on that to the board and the community beyond my Monday message is there's troubles with the server where then you have to reboot the server, go through it. Sometimes it takes, it doesn't take. And so what transportation is doing is looking to get a different one that's not housed on a server. Other districts are having the same problem, moving towards that. Transportation already had one bill that was pushed back from them that we didn't have to pay because of that. So they are working on that. We're trying to keep it up to date. And I was letting the public know.
Can you remind me what?
My Stop is the app that
Oh,
you
the app
go
on
on
the
your phone to
Okay.
say, hurry up, the bus is almost here.
Yeah.
Or,
Got
oh my
it.
gosh, I better get home, the bus is almost here.
Okay.
And so getting that information out. And Eric is going to have someone checking it continually. So therefore, you can work with transportation. If it goes down, that we know it's down, they can start working on it to get it back up. It took a whole day this last time, but we did get it back up, and I get an email from the gentleman asking what I did special, and really it wasn't me, it was technology working on the server. I'm spending the day doing it, so thank you to technology. I know, Paul, you were doing something else. The next thing I have is mascot logo update. We are progressing nicely. I was hoping to have it for this board meeting, but they are working on the branding guideline. Jim, who's been the one working on that from the board, so we each have access to some program I've never heard of before where we can go in there and look at it, what they're doing with the colors, the fonts. Well, they'll have something with a red background, a white background. The first iteration had too much blue on it because it's a backup color. Don't need this right now at all. So with that, we're using the colors that we had selected last time that you saw in the Friday memo. Any questions on the mascot logo update?
I don't have well, I guess maybe I do have a question. And I'm fine with it, with the colors, but well, how do they term it in the industry? Are they primary colors or basic colors or?
These are standard
Okay,
Lodge
standard
bats.
colors. And we were told, and the whole reason I'm saying this is because I like the blue, I like the lighter blue I liked, gave a little more contrast. It was too light. The darker blue I like better, but it's almost too dark. And so my question was with the custom. Well, if these standard, all of the colors are formulas.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're telling us that they can get the standard colors right most of the time, or 99.9% of the time, and that it's going to look the same regardless of the material that's used, whether it's cotton or synthetic or whatever. If we wanted a different color that would be deemed a custom color, that is still a formula. Do they not read the formulas as well for custom colors as they do for a standard color? It's still a basic color.
Yeah.
If you're telling me the standard color with this manufacturer is the same standard color with this manufacturer, and it's going to make it easier for us, my question is, if you all use that same color wheel that's used in the industry, every one of those colors have a formula on it, why as soon as you stray from what they say is a standard color that you're going to get variations? And why would the variations be greater in what they term a custom color that we would pick off of the wheel than from the standard?
Go ahead.
Part of it is, I'll use an example, because we're not using Nike for anything, but it's like, does Nike have that blue available? And like those companies will not deviate from their blue. Their navy blue is Nike's navy blue is Nike's navy blue. They won't go.
So basically,
We're not
unless
using Nike,
we pick Nike's blue, we're out of the market for any Nike products, because that wouldn't be our blue. I thought these were standard blue colors.
I think it comes in, where my understanding is, there's all the colors you can pick from. And they have gone for certain, the dark navy blue, where the BSN, Under Armour, Nike, all have that color pretty well locked in and matched. Whereas when you go to the other ones, you run into two issues. One, we're not going to make it for you, because we don't make that custom color. So then you lose vendors. The other piece is when the vendors make it, and I think you did it well with different materials, it doesn't come out quite the same.
So we're going to have variations no matter
So you're going to have
what. So my question is, are we settling for a color that they deem standard and is easier for them? Or should we choose a color that we really want, unless everybody really wants that really dark blue? Yeah.
Well, we all discussed and we picked the dark one,
The dark blue.
navy blue, rather than that lighter royal blue.
And
I think Chuck's
again,
question is, and put up the color now, if you look at it, there are lots of different blues out there. We'll just look at the top line, or the second line actually, because there's a dark navy blue, and you can see 4 blues going along there. If you pick, other than the 3 blues, I think it was 3 blues they gave us, when you go to different manufacturers, all of those could be shaded a little different. I say could be, because it doesn't mean they have to be. Even in the same vendor, they say it could be shaded a little different by sticking with the ones they say.
Yeah, but again, Doug, and I don't know if you've ever seen those, the color charts.
The color wheels, yeah.
Everyone has a number assigned to it.
Well, that's what the numbers are right there.
Those are industry
Yep.
assigned
Right here.
numbers.
Here's the number right here, Chuck.
Right.
And that, oops, gotta get back to the mic, I know, Paul. Chuck, here are the numbers right here. And so therefore, that's what they would be using, but even though they have the standard number, they say you don't get the same standard color.
But if we use their standard color, we'll get their standard color.
Because they say that's the ones that they've gone through, the dye lots.
I
had the same question, and I think you were on the phone.
Standard color, we're gonna get a better match. Yeah,
It's just also their stocking colors.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I understand supply, but it just, their explanation of why we should stay away from a custom color, because it's gonna be different every time you order it, I call you-know-what on that.
And the
Because it's just a different formula from their standard formula, that's all.
And the one thing I just want to mention, because one of the things that they're currently doing, and I think Doug has alluded to this a couple times, is for the logo, not colors, they're still doing a nationwide pattern search, because they have to make sure that, that bird is not anywhere else, because, there could be a community college in Wichita that has that, and then we'd have to change it somewhat. That's why Doug said there may be some slight variations.
Yeah. But anyway, that was just, are we settling for something that I'm not sure why you can get one color right most of the time and any other color, it's a crapshoot. That's all. It just didn't make sense to me.
It was on a phone call, I had the same 2-hour conversation. And they said, really, if you wanted the most consistent, these are the ones that will give you the most consistency. They've been doing it a long time, and that's where I don't know enough to go one way other than what I've been told by the vendors.
I'm not in the industry, but from an outsider, those are questions I'd be asking the reps.
Yeah.
Why can you do the standard color, but you can't do what you're deeming a custom color? Because that light blue, if they deemed it that was their standard color, that's what we would have, and then you would have the problem with the dark blue. Don't choose that because we can't get it right.
And I agree with you, and that's where they kept saying, and Jim was there, and so he'll correct me if I got it wrong, even though you have that standard, when they do the dye lots, because they're special runs, they always come back a little different. I go to Home Depot and I say a color and I watch the little thing squirt in it and I get the color I want and I come home and it matches pretty darn good, but it's pretty darn good. And I guess it's how how much off do you want to be and tolerate?
And it was also a wide acceptance, not with this, but years ago at EMW, we used to order the football jerseys and we switched colors. It was kind of like you settled on a design, and then we picked the red and the white and the blue that was closest to Iroquois. There were ones that were closer, but this was a different company. So this manufacturer won't do this design with that blue. And they picked ones that were widely
We're gonna run
accepted.
into, but when we run into that problem, you know, I mean, you're telling me that Nike and a couple other ones, this
Well,
is their cover.
I use Nike,
Are we
I
gonna
use
run
Nike
into that
as an
problem anyway?
example.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why they picked these particular shades were these are the ones that many manufacturers use.
They'll give us the greatest
Yeah,
possibility for everyone.
and again, Jim, I understand their reasoning of why they do it. The explanation, at least that I have gotten so far, about I don't buy it. I am sorry. A formula isn't a formula. You're going to have the same color deviations in a standard as you are in the other. Maybe it's masked more because they're making larger lots of it, which is great. But, you know, it's still basically the same formula.
The larger lots.
You
It's
know,
the large lots, that's exactly the words they use.
Well, I'm sure that would have an effect. Is it going to be that much an effect that you're going to be looking at the dark blue and then somebody's going to produce that lighter blue and that was the match for it? No, and like I say, you're going to have those same deviations when you're using different fabrics. You could use the same dye different fabrics and you're going to end up with a slightly different color. So, you know, I don't know. I just want to make sure you guys aren't settling for something and you get what you really want. That's all.
I mean, I just speaking for it. I did like that blue, but I don't.
That's fine.
And so what Jim said is right, so they're finishing up all those things, and so we should have the branding guide with everything done. John's working on some legal documents with that too, so to make sure that we own it the best we can. And so we should expect that for the May board meeting, which you'll be presented and see it. I will get out to the board in a Friday memo when it's done, so you can see the branding guide ahead of time, and Jim is working with us on that. Curriculum update, Mary Jo.
You're on the clock. The alarm is out.
Let her get started if she's on the clock, Chuck.
So a copy of the PowerPoint is being passed out for you. This is our part two of the timeline that discusses the science of reading and the work that we've been doing with literacy in our district. So just to recap, last month we went back to some of the work that we had done in July and discussed the definition of the science of reading and the simple view of reading, and then spoke about why we were making a change and what we've done since we began roughly in 2020, 2021. And I want to just concentrate on that year, 2020, 2021. It's really when the grassroots movement began in our district. We officially began really in the 21, 22 and moving forward. With our objectives today, basically what I'm going to be trying to do is answer the questions that all of you provided me at the last meeting and the last presentation. So I'm not going to go through these questions, but what I'm going to do is just answer them. So the first one was about what are other districts in the area doing and what do their data look like? And so on this slide, the area's school district review, what we did is we sent a survey out to the school districts that encompass O.N. BOCES, Erie 1, Erie 2, and Cat Alley. And roughly there's about 81 school districts in that area, so figure from Lake Ontario all the way down to the Pennsylvania border. Obviously, because of our location, primarily Erie 1 and Erie 2 schools responded. So 42 out of the 81 schools responded to our survey. And looking at their proficiency rates for last year's 3 through 8 assessment, and proficiency is considered passing level 3s and 4s. Their proficiencies ranged anywhere from 66% to 18%. And that's just of, I'm only going to be speaking of the 42 school districts that responded, okay? So when we look at our numbers and compare our numbers to those 42 school districts, we were about 14th, so about in almost the top third of the school districts. Then we asked the question, what were you using prior to 22-23? Were you using anything different? And 33% of the 42 school districts responded that they were using some form of balanced literacy, just like we were. We were using Lucy Calkins. And then we asked, okay, have any of you made changes in the 23-24 school year? And 55% of those school districts said, yes, we've changed something. And then we asked, going forward, do you have any future plans? And 76% of those 42 school districts said yes. So then we asked, well, what are the changes? And truthfully, they were very wide in their descriptions. But some of the program changes came about with primarily phonics, because what we're all recognizing in the science of reading is that if we don't have that word recognition, it won't matter what else we do. So there's a lot of phonics changes. There are some school districts that are doing just like we are and going for comprehensive program changes. So they're looking to adopt. Then some said, similar to us, we're really investing in professional development of our teachers because we feel it's really important that everyone has a consistent understanding of how to teach reading and other parts of literacy. And then finally, some school districts said, we're gonna produce our own materials, and so we're working on that. So then the other question was, because we talked about NAEP scores, what are other states doing? So using the document, The Reading Revolution, which is out of Georgetown University, it is an independent study. 41, what the study did is it actually researched what the states have been doing, dating back as far as 2013. And 41 of the 50 states passed some kind of literacy bill. 12 of them actually passed multiple years, had multiple years where they passed some sort of literacy bill. Looking at the 2022 NAEP scores, 36 states outscored New York State. And 16 states who passed legislation in 2021, out of the 16 states, 56% of them improved their proficiency. There were many areas, there are 6 main areas of legislation, and so when we're looking at these percentages, we're taking it out of the 41 states that have passed legislation. So you'll see that a majority of them, 82%, looked at teacher prep or universal screening at 70%. And then 56% at adopting a specific or providing a choice of program. And states, there were some states that did all of them. So that way you could see the breakdown, excuse me.
Mary Jo, what does grade 3 retention mean?
So some states have it where if the student doesn't pass or score proficient on the grade 3 literacy, they are held back. But there's a lot of research that says be careful about this, because if we hold students back, there's a higher tendency to have a dropout later on in their school career. So what these schools have done is they have put in kind of a safety net and said, at third grade, we will retain you if you are new to the United States and have limited English abilities, or you haven't had intervention and you haven't had 2 years of intervention. So they're strictly limiting their retention.
Okay, so unless one of those two things fit.
They're not normally doing, they're not, there's not a lot of states doing that. So because we talked about Mississippi last month, and there was a discussion about how well Mississippi has done, what we went ahead and did was compared Mississippi's results to New York State's results. And Mississippi is one of those states that has multiple years of legislation. Their first legislation was actually in 2012, and their second big piece of legislation was 2016. And if you notice, Mississippi's ranking and proficiency improved consistently from 2013 to 2022. And in fact, they're actually doing better now than New York State. The question was asked last month, how long is this going to take? And so this will give you an idea. We're hoping it's not going to take 10 years. We're hoping along the lines, as I said, 2016 was when they passed their latest legislation, and that's where we see the largest chunk of improvement. And so in our school district, we're looking at a comprehensive program. We're investing in our teachers with professional development. We have our TOSAs to help along with it. We're consistently talking with our teachers, so we're hoping that we are hitting a lot of the points that we believe will bring success sooner than 12 years, hopefully in the lines of 3.
Mary Jo, on the graph, there's, it has Mississippi, New York. Ranked by year of, what is it exactly showing on the left-hand column?
So that is their actual rank among the 50 states.
Okay.
Okay?
I
So
got it.
Mississippi in 2013 was number 50.
And now they're down to 22.
Now they're down to 22. And in
You
fact,
run a low number there.
No,
Yeah.
That's actually, I just want,
yeah, and in fact, if you look at their subgroup, by ethnicity, by economically disadvantaged, actually in their subgroup of race, Mississippi's ranked number 2. And so what it's showing is that their work is not just improving as a whole, it's closing the gap between what was considered the haves and the have-nots. So some questions were asked, well, what is this implementation going to look like, and how will we know that it's working? So we divided it up by qualitative and quantitative data. And in this next chart, this just shows you what our plans are for the upcoming year. I'm not going to go through every single point, so don't worry. But basically what we're going to be doing is a lot of talking and a lot of asking questions. In our qualitative data, we're looking at our survey results right now. Next week, our administrative team is going to be getting together, talking about what we see in the surveys and what they've learned from the discussions they've had with their teachers. We've already begun. I also have a needs assessment survey out there for K-12 about summer professional development. We're going to be using our grade level leaders a lot more this year because we're going to be asking them to also be out there asking questions of the teachers in their grade levels. What do they need? What are they seeing? What difficulties are they having? Because what that's going to help us do is direct our professional development. We also have some Reading League training set up for a half day in October and a half day in February. But then we also have time set up where the needs of our teachers, if they're different from what we already have planned, can be covered during those times as well. We are looking at revamping our report card right now. And so there's going to be needs and questions based on the report card, decisions that have to be made. And so, and then we're gonna have 2 formal surveys specific to the program, one done in November, because we don't want to do it too soon, and one later on in the year. Any questions on this one?
And the survey would be for the teachers?
For the teachers.
Okay.
So then, looking at our quantitative data, what are the metrics that we're going to be using to measure our success? And I didn't realize I had to do that, so sorry. So, in the blue rectangles, you'll see these are the processes that you use when you look at data. So, what's your question? What kind of data you're collecting? Clean out the outliers and determine why they needed to be cleaned out, why they were outliers. Analyze your data, share the data, and make some decisions. Inside the circle are the key pieces of data that we collect during the year right now. We collect the survey level assessments 3 times a year. That's your Ames Web. That's when everybody's assessed. Then for those students who score below the 35th percentile, we give them a diagnostic assessment. And if you notice in the pinkish circles, those are the specific questions, because that define the question is different based on the assessment. Okay, so first we have to identify who might be having problems. And then those who score below 35th percentile, what are their issues? What are their potential areas that we need to consider helping them? And then for the individual program assessments, that's when you get your spelling tests, your weekly tests, your unit tests. That tells us how the kids are performing within the program. And then obviously our state assessments, that's how our kids are performing against the state standards.
I'm just laughing because for the state tests that were today and tomorrow, after spring break, I'd like to see some metrics on after spring break how the kids do on the state tests, because they were like, we got state testing this week. Right after break, our brains are full. Like, you know, they should be rested, but I thought that was funny, whoever decided that.
And really,
that's the state thing of where they have the windows.
Yeah.
And where the breaks are, and that's been big consternation with superintendents in building the calendar. And I personally am one that the 3 through 8 tests should be at the end of the year with the Regents tests, and everyone should be at the end of the year. That gives you the summer to analyze the data.
Yeah, there you go.
Geez, what a novel idea.
I've had it for 15 years now, Chuck.
but in our district, it has always been our philosophy that we teach beyond the standards. And so that we hope to make these state assessments and Regents assessments just be another day. That we ask the kids to be well rested and have a good breakfast, but there's no way that you're going to study for them. There's no way you're going to get it into your head overnight. So just relax and do the best that you can, and that's what we aim for in our district. Any questions on this? Any other questions? Okay, so moving forward, the other set of questions is how are we going to keep you guys informed? And what's for our continuous plan of feedback loop? And basically, it will be through probably monthly Friday updates, and once in a while me presenting on something, but if there's a need, I'm certain that you will communicate that to Doug, and we'll take care of it from there.
Well, and from the sounds of it earlier, that the district planning conference will also have data in it, so that would be a great as a year end of what we're looking to do the next year, and then at the end of it will be a review of how do we do on that goal.
And just as a reminder, because I really think that this last slide is super important, that structured literacy helps everyone. If you're a strong reader, you'll get stronger. And if you're a student who has weak areas, it will help you close that gap. So please keep this in mind as you get questions, and feel free to ask me any questions.
Yeah, sorry. I don't know if I guess.
Sorry, yeah, we gotta move on to the next one. I was told
Okay,
you to be stricter with the
I'll hold
calendar.
it. Could you put me on the agenda for this? No. Just a question, because we have the New York State assessments at 3 and 8, I would imagine that will very heavily rely on the individual program assessments for the students in the other grades.
The assessments are
Because, I
three,
mean,
Yes.
it's not
personally,
3 and 8.
I
it's
don't want to just
It's 3
focus
through
on
8.
third
It's
and
three,
eighth graders.
no, it's 3 through 8, Chuck.
Yeah.
3 through, not 3 and 8, 3 through 8.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you, sorry. All right.
And for K1 and 2, yes, you're absolutely right. We will be concentrating on the other 3 quadrants of that circle.
Okay, sorry, now I feel foolish.
No, you don't. It's fine. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Gotta get on the right page.
Iroquois intermediate update.
Iroquois intermediate update, everything is moving forward well with that. Meetings are set up, as you heard earlier, he'll be meeting with the PTO to get that developed. We talked about staffing, so everything seems to be on schedule and moving nicely. Any questions? Is the next thing
Recognitions.
recognition? So what we have for recognition is, the first thing is item 17. We have 5 people retiring. We have Donna, Christine, Lori, Mary Shawn, and Duke, and congratulations to them. We will do a little more recognition in June, where we'll invite them to the June board meeting and thank them personally. The other thing I have to recognize is the phys ed teacher at Marilla did receive a $1,300 gift certificate to be used at U.S. Games, because this is the 13th event for the Kids Heart Challenge. They had an impressive over $16,000, and over the 13 years, they have done over $143,000. So congratulations to the students at Iroquois, and thank you very much for Jill for doing all that. Compass House, as a thank you, Lives of Our Community, a letter acknowledging the kind donation of 436 pairs of socks received March 19th, 2024. And this part, food and clothing. So congratulations to everyone who participated in that. Great job. Congratulations to our 2024 Scholar Athlete teams. We had 11 teams qualify for this prestigious honor. We did talk about LEAD and what they have done, and congratulations to the Model UN students who participated in the annual competition at UB. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Next, recognition of guests for agenda items. Do we have any guests?
No.
Okay. The discussion for agenda items 12.01 to 24.11.
So moved.
We're not there. Is there any discussion? We're not quite there yet, Chuck. Is there any
Discussion, do you have anything you want to talk about for those
No,
items?
I thought he said he wanted a motion to approve.
Okay. Is there a request to withdraw any items from the agenda?
So moved.
Slap you down.
No.
No.
Is there a request to add any agendas to the item? Okay, can I have a motion to approve consensus agenda items 13.01 to 24.11? Chuck?
So moved, if it's okay.
Need a second.
I'll second it.
Heather did it.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, can I have a vote to approve the agenda? Oh, discussion?
Quick comment, on this agenda, 24.03 is capital outlay project. We discussed that during my presentation. We do need to have the board approve this before the budget vote to kind of incorporate it into our budget. So we do need to put this $100,000 project in as it is today. If things do change the budget process and there is an increase allowed, we will find out if it's able to be done next year. And we'll find out, because I'm sure a lot of districts will ask, how do we make the change? and we'll do that. But right now, we need to approve it as it stands with the $100,000.
Yeah, he's just clarifying that we'll have to find legality after, because the state is taking a long time.
Okay, we had the motion and the second. Can we have a vote to approve the agenda? All in favor? Okay. Do we have any guests regarding any topic?
Do not.
Okay, we are going to need to have a executive session. Can I have a motion to enter executive session?
Say the reason.
I'm sorry, to discuss the employment history of a particular person or persons. We have,
Second.
okay, can we have a vote? Okay, we will move into
We
executive.
won't be taking any action when we come back.
Yeah, we're going to move into executive session. When we come back, we will only be coming back to adjourn the meeting. We will have no action to be taken.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Oh, hold on, sorry, discussion? All in favor? Adjourned. We gotta go.